What is up, gentlemen? Clunky here. Hope you guys are doing super well, and welcome to my no BS Unholy DK guide for Dragonflight. Okay, this guide is for kind of beginners type of players who kind of just want to get into the DK playstyle and want to understand what is going on with this class because it's pretty freaking confusing. It has a lot of keys. You don't very much know what you're doing, okay, when you start playing Unholy. But I'm here right now to actually help you like grasp the character and start playing. It's kind of super good right now. After watching this video, you're gonna be much better at DK, alright? So first off, I'm just gonna talk about the rune, okay? So this part, not a lot of people know about this. It's actually kind of easy, but I had to figure that out by myself to understand, okay? So when you spend your runes, because DKs actually work with rune systems, you get like you get 6 runes that you can spend, and pretty much all your damage abilities use runes, okay? Fair enough. When you spend all of those runes and you start coiling, when you start using that runic power, which is the resource that you get from spending the runes, okay? When you start like using all of your runic power, what happens? It increases the rate at which your runes are regenerating. So in the long term, you're gonna deal a lot more damage by weaving in death coils, Death Strike in your rotation. Okay, Death Strike is only for heals, don't get me wrong. So by spending your runic power, it actually reduces the cooldown for each of your runes, and it makes you deal a lot more damage overall. Okay, that's the first trick. That's a very, very, very basic trick, but not a lot of people know about this. Okay, so next up, I'm going to talk a little bit about cooldowns for DKs. What are cooldowns? Okay, you got a ton of freaking keys to press. Okay, compared to my marksman hunter, I got like triple the amount of keys to press. But what happens with DK is you don't actually need to hit everything at once. That's not how the character works. Okay, it's very situational. Okay, but you should always start the fight with Outbreak. Okay, Outbreak is your meat and butter. It's your primary core spell. I don't know how to describe it perfectly, but that's where your damage comes from. That's your disease. So if you don't use Outbreak right out the gate, you're dealing like 20-30% less damage. Okay, so always use Outbreak unless your enemy is an NPC with 1% life. Then you can just go ahead and press, you know, Death Coil or whatever. You just finish the target. But if the target is about like 20% and up, you actually have to use Outbreak at all times. And Outbreak is super good because it spreads to all the nearby targets, and it deals huge freaking damage. Like, it's passive damage. It's literally free damage for you, and it's literally the core of Unholy DK. If you don't press Outbreak, you deal ton less damage, right? So next up, DKs have a passive that when you use a Deafen DK, you actually get 5% haste, okay? So you hit faster while inside your Deafen DK, which is super good. You don't actually see it that much, but when you play the character, it freaking adds up like crazy. And also, Deafen DK allows you to deal spread pressure. What I mean is cleaving. So whenever you actually hit, I'm just gonna hit Deafen DK and then use Score Strike. Okay, I'm not gonna apply dots. I'm just showing you guys right now. Def and DK, Score Strike. So I'm dealing huge, 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 huge cleave damage to everything that's inside my Def and DK. Okay, so Def and DK is used to do cleave damage. If you add on top of that your disease, Def and DK, and Score Strike, now you're dealing a lot of damage. But then again, you need to spend your Death Coil or Epidemic to increase your rune regeneration, right? So fair enough. Now that you understand this part, we're gonna talk about the big cooldowns that you will use as Unholy DK, right? So your best cooldowns ever is Dark Transformation, Apocalypse, and Army of the Dead, okay? And since this patch we are playing, like every DK in the whole world is playing with the 4 tier set bonus, okay? Let's read very fast what happens, okay? Death Coil, Epidemic damage increased by 10%. Death Coil and Epidemic grants a stack of Master of the Death. Okay, so every time you Death Coil or Epidemic, you get a percentage based damage increase on your next Dark Transformation. But here's the catch. Okay, when you use Army of the Dead, you gain 20 stacks right away. So what that means is if Army of the Dead is off cooldown and you want to burst, that should be your first ability that you hit after Outbreak, of course. Okay, so Army of the Dead, Outbreak, sorry, Army of the Dead, and then Festering Strike twice, and then you use Dark Transformation and then Apocalypse. That's how you're gonna deal the max amount of damage. Just talking about simple rotation right now, okay? Don't get me wrong, because Army of the Dead grants 20 stacks of Master of Death. Okay, when you use Dark Transformation, it actually gives you that buff. Okay, it gives you a ton more mastery. We're gonna see here, watch. I'm sitting at 60% mastery. We're gonna use Army of the Dead. Okay, we're not doing the full rotation, but I'm just showing you. We got 20% increased mastery as soon as we hit Dark Transformation. Bam! I'm sitting at 80% mastery. And then when I'm gonna use Apocalypse, ooh, it's gonna hit like crazy. So you always want to use Army of the Dead before bursting. That's when you need to use it at all times, alright? Now that is out of the way, now that you know how to gain as much damage increase as possible, we're going to talk about something that not a lot of people actually know about this character. Abomination Limb deals a substantial amount of damage. It deals kind of good damage, okay? Kind of good AoE damage, but what it's used for is just like to disrupt enemies, to get them back towards you, and it adds some damage. Not the best damage, but kind of good damage for a single global, okay? So you don't actually always need to use Abomination Limb when bursting. It's not, you don't need to use it when bursting, okay? But what happens is it disrupts enemies, it brings them back towards you, it allows you to proceed to building a more festering strike, which will lead to bursting the wounds with Scorch Strike, which I'm going to talk about in like 30 seconds, alright? So I've got a macro that I'm going to link down in the description that uses Abomination Limb and Empower Rune Weapon at the same time. So those two keys should always be used together anyways, because it increases your haste a bit, and it makes it a lot easier for you to apply your festering strike on your enemies who are running away from you. All right. So within that window of time, when you use my macro, which is going to use those two abilities together, you're going to be able to get off a lot more death coils. You're going to be able to generate more wounds on your targets, and possibly like increase your apocalypse damage. All right. So the importance of Abomination Limb and Empower Rune Weapon is more so of it increases your haste a bit, and it helps you spreading your disease. It's not an actually like, oh shoot, insane increase in damage. It's not actually that, okay? It's just to help you get out your damage basically. Right. So now that we talked about Dark Transformation, Death and Decay, we talked about Army of the Dead, Limb, and Empower. Alright, so the complexity of Unholy Decay comes from the bursting wounds system, okay? So what you need to understand right away is you need to build up some festering wounds on your target. That is literally the whole point of Unholy, okay? So apply dots, everything. And when you've got around 4 at bare minimum 4 festering wound on your target, you can go ahead and use your burst that I talked about a little bit earlier in the video. You know, Army of the Dead, into Dark Transformation, into Apocalypse. Okay, though the best way to do it would be to stack your festering wounds up to 6. Why? Because it's going to benefit you in the long run. Okay, so if you don't have the choice, you need to burst right now, you can go ahead with 4 festering wounds on your target. But the best tactic would be to have at least 4, at the very least 4 festering wounds. Okay, the reason why, it's quite simple. Apocalypse uses up to 4 festering wounds on your target to summon an Army of the Dead. So if you use Apocalypse with 1 wound on your target, it's gonna deal mediocre damage, absolutely disgustingly low damage, and your ghouls are gonna hit like nothing. Your Apocalypse gonna deal like no damage at all. So what I would say is get, if possible, 6 stacks. At 6 stacks, you're gonna deal immense damage with all of your cooldowns. Okay, so we're gonna use it. So right off the bat, we actually use almost every rune just to summon our army. But now our army is actually dealing insane damage. Okay, we're not doing anything, pulling upwards to 50k DPS by just using what I've just told you, right? Because the next part, okay, this is very important, follow along. Every time you're gonna Scourge Strike, which is also your main source of damage, you're gonna burst a wound on your target. Okay, so if there's no wound for you to use after you've used Apocalypse, you're going to be in downtime because you're going to have to build up wounds on your target by applying Festering Strike. So you're going to lose a ton of damage. Okay, so just a small recap to explain everything a little bit like faster. If possible, build up 6 Festering Wounds on your target. Okay, you're going to deal a lot more damage in the long run if you're able to do so, right? So festering wounds, 6. When we're ready, Army of the Dead is on cooldown, but still, we're going to just press Dark Transformation into Apocalypse. Boom, we're dealing upwards to 32k-ish. I'm not pressing anything. That's literally huge damage for you to enjoy, basically. Okay, so and then we are gonna go back to the rotation, which is Scorch Strike into Death Coil, into Scorch Strike, 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 until you have no more festering wounds on your target. And then we are refreshing the dots because they were about to fall off. We're gonna use festering strike once, build up some more wounds, and then Death Coil because we are capped on runic power, into another Death Coil because we're capped, into Scorch Strike, into Death Coil, into Scorch Strike, into Death Coil, into Festering Strike, Death Coil, refreshing the dots because they're falling off, Scorch Strike, into Death Coil, and so on. Alright, so if you use a Scorch Strike without any festering wound on your target, you are going to lose immense damage. It's not worth it unless the only time that you want to hit your target with no wounds applied is whenever you are fully capped on runic power, right? That's the only time ever you want to press it. Right now I'm playing with this PP talent, Doom Burst. It bursts up to 2 festering wounds on target and reduce the target's movement speed by 45% per burst for 3 seconds, which is super huge. It reduces the target's movement speed by like 90% for 3 seconds, which is super disgustingly OP, but you know, that's how it is. So the only time that you would want to not press Death Coil is if you're using that talent, okay? Sudden Doom, I got 2 stacks. You want to actually have enough wounds on your target for when you're going to use your Sudden Doom to have enough wounds to burst all of them, okay? I don't know if that was clear. Hopefully it was. If it was not, just let me know down in the comments section. And let's move on to the next trick. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the pet. Alright, so as an Unholy DK, you need to have your pet commands binded. Alright, I could not make Unholy work without the full binding on my pet. Okay, bind everything because it's worth it. Alright, so I got my petattack, I got my pet on follow, which I can use whenever I want, send my pet to attack, bring him out of the fight. You need those macros. And also when you dark transformation and you want to stun the target, see the target is stunned, I'm going to link those macros down in the description too, so you guys can actually check them out and start pumping. Like it's worth it, guys. It's very much worth it. All right, so I've got this really cool macro, which I'm gonna just dismiss the pet. This macro, when I hit it once, it summons my pet. When I hit it twice, it's going to attack my target. All right, so it's very, very, very incredibly good. You need that macro, right? The next macro that I'm gonna link down in the description is whenever you use Lichborn, okay? Whenever you use Lichborn, that's when you want to get out of a fear, okay? But the second use of Lichborn that not a lot of players know about is you can actually heal yourself for quite a lot with Lichborn. How? Is by death coiling yourself when you are under the effect of Lichborn. Alright? How do we do that without having to target ourselves and press death coil, and there's a big fight going on, and it's complicated and it's stressing out. I got the macro for that. Okay, it's gonna be down in the description. So basically, you got a bunch of runic power, you're taking huge amounts of damage, and you gotta heal yourself. Boom, you hit my macro, and you start coiling yourself, and it heals you for a bunch. You don't need to target yourself. You can still hit your enemies and death coil yourself while you are doing this. All right. So very, very, very good macro. I would highly recommend you guys to check that out. And yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. If I missed anything, if you want me to make a longer version, I can. Just let me know down in the description. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe if you're not. If you want to see more of those, because I'm gonna cover up all the characters in World of Warcraft, and because I know not all of you have the time to spend 20 hours a day like most streamers playing World of Warcraft and like understand everything. So you know what? I'm helping you, all right? I'm helping you because I got no life. I can explain you how to play characters without you having to play the characters. You just need to watch the video a couple minutes, bam, right away you start playing. Obviously for beginners, like if you don't know what's the character you're playing, what's the goals, and you just want to get in, start playing right away and have fun, watch my stuff, man, because I'm gonna drop insanely good content for you guys. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. See you in the next one, gentlemen, and check out the macros in the description. Take care.